getting their money back in the angel fund money.
What does
The hell with the
safety
community,
Well,
what
what
about us?
like?
Yes, so as far
Well,
as,
you know, it's the
Alan,
same
you're on
way.
the invite, I just saw your name up there.
there's Floating Lives has got a revenue-based model, but he'd probably have more like 5%, because people aren't making a lot of money, even in revenue starting out. But you get it to a certain level that they get, they paid out, so they paid out half of it, and but they've given you all of your money back, and you still have a participating interest in it.
So I was gonna talk about that randomly.
Yeah.
Later, that doesn't have to be
Well,
this
after
minute.
the
But it's
fact,
like-
yeah.
Later.
But yeah, I would agree, because it falls into both the two questions, the perpetuality of it, and also, because there's a fund called Fledge, if you look at that out of Seattle, as Alan just alluded to, where they take a revenue stream payback, so it's not all exits, because we don't wanna be a bunch of zombies around here. So it's a revenue stream, and then you keep maybe half of your equity, so you should look at things like that as alternate ways of just doing, you take an equity and then you're gonna wait till they go public or whatever the hell it is.
So the 15-second version would be basically, I invest X dollars and I get some stock, and then I say, you're gonna give me 4% of your revenue, your top line revenue, until you pay me back 2 times what I put in, and I'm going to still own half of what so I bought 5%, you're gonna buy back 2.5% of stock as a percentage of your revenue. So that way, it's not like debt where you have a set payment every month, it's gonna be 4%, 5%, 2%, whatever, of your revenue. So if you have low revenue months, you're not paying back much. If you're doing well, you're paying back more. But then there's actually money coming back monthly to the investors, and then you're not forced into an exit. And we're not forced with our money in perpetual startup zombie hell for decades or whatever.
How do Iceland and New England's similar ocean clusters form themselves?
The Iceland Ocean Cluster is the only for-profit cluster initiative we found. And so they make money via lease income and fee-for-service for the businesses. They've got 70 businesses co-located in Reykjavik. And the other cluster models we've seen have been all nonprofit, getting money from events, grants, and membership.
I think the unique thing about the Iceland deal is when you go to the ocean cluster thing there, you find well-established companies like GameSkip, the shipping company, or the two seafood processing Merrill
Yeah.
type companies there next to your startups in other stuff, and somehow they've managed to have a good mix of the success and the startups together.
One thing they've done is when there is a startup that is emerging, there's an idea, they offer it to the existing industry, the existing players, and they say, do you want to invest in this new player? And so that's how they've kind of created collaboration amongst the competitors in the industry.
Do you have a list of companies you're ready to fund right now?
Just the Blue Pipeline Incubator.
Because you can forget it, because the meeting will bust your chops. You can ask any of the fund managers here. You just can't take money in and say you're gonna invest it over a 4-year period. That's not gonna work. So unless you have, even in this group, unless you can tell us, hey, we're putting this in, but we're gonna have, within a year, we're going to have X amount of companies funded. Otherwise, you can ask, again, some very experienced fund managers here, trying to fill that pipeline's a little difficult, and then the community does not like it. So,
Yeah, I mean, we understand the challenge, but we think we've had traction in trying to fill the pipeline. With Otis, we've got ideas for an Otis 2.0 that would be a customer validation sprint. So to help companies along and then give them access to these, seed stage equity markets.
But they're on specific companies yet
yeah.
that you can put a name to.
We've got a handful with Wheelhouse, which is probably a little early, Alaska Salmon Fertilizer. We'd like to run them through a more robust customer discovery process. before they're ready for funding, but with that, there's maybe a month or two away for them to finish that up. The oyster farming operation doesn't need funding today, so it's probably not starting. What kind of level of detail would you all look for that?
Companies?
Yeah.
Preferably investable. Yeah, I mean, you get to the point where you go, hey, we're looking at the salmon fertilizer company. This is their model. This is their projections. They're viable. We have real founders.
Like almost a full page, or
A one pager.
It's basically a pipeline of what you see out there, kind of the companies that are the really far out there, maybe Otis companies, ones that are a little closer because they've actually formed, like Wheelhouse, some like the oyster farm that are actually operating, maybe need some help. It's just going to basically be a sales funnel of here's all the places we're looking, here are some of the opportunities we're seeing. Yeah, it's,
And so, we don't know all the companies that might be interested in this. We've been focused on, getting this up and running. We've been doing other programs. We've been getting the pipeline moving. And, to be honest, the marketing of this has not really happened. We're taking a team down to Seward on, a smaller group of this advisory team down to Seward on May 12th. We'll be talking to more companies down there to see if there are, more of these.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing sounds great, but certainly to me, it sounds like a government agency. You're getting grants, you're certainly a nonprofit trying to bring these thoughts together and stuff, which is good, but private enterprise isn't interested in funding those things. Once you identify different companies in different specific areas, now all of a sudden, perhaps that would work, i.e. salmon fertilizer or something. But just to do a catch-all that, a feel-good thing, oof, good luck with that idea. So.
and Gary, let me just add one thing. For those of you that are familiar with the Salmon Innovation Fund, just be aware that Brock is working closely with Joel, and there's actually a relationship between what's going on there of identifying companies that may need help, Alaskan companies that may go through the pipeline or may want to shunt off to the Innovation Fund. So,
Brock, part of your presentation tomorrow? Yeah, that would be good.
yeah, so that's a really key part, that there is some more serious traction. There's a lot of thought process and experience and connections that Brock brings to the whole equation.
And I'm just going to speak because my background too is in community lending as well, so I can appreciate the timeline to developing an entrepreneur and the skill building that comes with that. So from my perspective and with the Bristol Bay Development Fund, we see the opportunity in investing in that front-loaded skill set, if you will. But if I put it in terms, I guess, that fits the ecosystem, it would be our due diligence in looking at a business investment as well that goes back to that direct impact to the region too. So, when I think about Wheelhouse is a good candidate because we have a mobile workforce, and the workforce can't readily put a resume together, package their education, and really pitch who they are and the experience that they have. So Wheelhouse brings that to the sector in our region, and I see some value in that. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I just see it in what I see forward. So I just want to kind of rally around that as well. I mean, and I appreciate the nonprofit models because we've kind of hashed that back and forth as well. And where do you make that commitment to invest in the actual startup or the seed capital as well? So just wanted to kind of
All right,
put
and
that
if I can kind of tie in with
flavor
that,
on
this model is more like Launch Alaska than not like it, in terms of there needing to be a nonprofit operating thing that does some things just for the good of the ecosystem, and a profit side that's trying to find smart, reasonable investments, hopefully investments that will provide some return. You're seeing basically the same format here in terms of the split between the operating side and the fund side, and what is being worked on here and with the 49th SAF is to begin the process of standing up the fund side of the rest of this, and the other partnerships are helping stand up the operating side. So if you're familiar with Launch Alaska, I think it provides you kind of a mental model of what's going on here.
Does Techstars have any nonprofit support? that you're aware of?
Texas has a foundation?
No, the Techstar startups, all the various ones around the country.
Oh yeah, so Texas recently signed a deal with the Nature Conservation, Nature Conservatory, what are they called? Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. And they're down in Denver. They just started the accelerator. They have a social enterprise accelerator now. But that's a social enterprise.
But it's specifically for the Nature Conservancy to.
No, it's a sponsored program. So Texas builds sponsored programs alongside organizations, and they've done a number of them. So they work with Target and Disney and other programs as well. So much like to me to point around Iceland, building in with big fishing companies or whatever it might be, you might want to plug in with that. I have a comment and a suggestion as well for you guys. So the comment, maybe I make the suggestion first. The suggestion would be, I think it would be great as a way of, because actually building out a pipeline of companies is really relevant to where you're at right now, and people are going to keep quizzing you on it. And I've been on the other receiving end of that, of being this startup that's been on a show in people's pipelines before. It's really annoying for startups because it doesn't actually mean they're going to get funded, but it is really relevant to you guys. I'd be really happy to create a collection in Ideators when we launch. We can have a collection for blue oceany type companies and ideas, and just so you can at least use that as kind of a pipeline funnel and start getting people to sort of like, you know, align towards that without having to build your own thing too soon. So that's an option. And my comment was really to the whole group. I've worked really closely with Joel, and I've been hooked up through an Otis program. And having worked with these guys for the last year, I can say that Joel's level of persistence is incredible, and the fact that I have no doubt in my mind that this will come together and it will come to fruition at some point, and all of this stuff around the blue economy here in Alaska will become real, because diversifying away from oil is all Joel is really about. And I think building this out is gonna happen. So I'm a huge fan of the work that's happened here, and the community. He's really put an understatement on the amount of work that's happened. You know, a year ago with the Ocean Tuesday, I think the first call was like 5 of us on that call, and a couple other people, and it's like, and then Joel just said like, no, I'm gonna do it next week, and the week after, and the week after, and now that list has grown to 800 people, you know, across the state. People are calling in from around the world. You see that, you see the Otis program having huge sort of impact. I was in Bethel with the guys, and you know, Bethel was incredible just to see people sort of stepping up and doing that. And I think there's other communities around Alaska, so these guys are really holding the rally flag, and that's my comment there. So, yeah.
So where are you, I mean, I'd ask this question tomorrow if you didn't ask it today, but I'd encourage you to put in your presentation, where are you with the giant fish companies and the giant CEQ groups? I think it's fantastic that Bristol Bay's with you, but are you getting CBRF or Epicta or any of those guys to give you traction? Because they have kind of a funny set of money where they can spend it on nonprofit do-good type stuff, and they can spend it, they can use it to very competitively buy companies. And so you've got that, and then you've also got giant companies like Trident now that are themselves sucking up a lot of small companies. I don't know if it's a lot, but I mean, you know, they were in essence a non-branded player, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and now you see Trident smoked salmon, you see Trident dish packs of cod and things like that just wasn't part of their strategy before this.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So it actually ties back to Bering Sea Fishermen's Association, which was started in 1979, and then in 1992 really incubated the CDQ program. They launched the CDQ program in 1992, and then it spun off into the 6 groups that are existing today. And I've worked for 3 of the 6, so I have a background in the CDQ world. And we had 3 of 6 CDQ groups sponsor Otis, and we've had 1 major contribution from 1 of the 6. My boss Karen Gillis and I were just in a lengthy strategy fundraising meeting the other day, and planned a trip to Seattle in July to meet with seafood companies like Trident, Ocean Beauty, and so our main traction has been through CDQ, but we understand the importance of the big players like Trident, and we see also the value, you know, for Trident to like in a company like Tidal Vision that was started in Juneau and then moved down to Seattle and now is partnered with Trident, and we see a lot of value in this ecosystem building for the major players. You know. I've also been in touch, ASME was a big sponsor of Otis, and I've been in touch with ASME, and they invited us to present